From Music City, USA, it's David Hooper and Music Business Radio.
David Hooper here, Music Business Radio. Got two members of the Doobie Brothers here, Tom Johnston and John McFee. And Tom, you're a founding member, so I want to start with you.
That's all right by me.
How did you hook up with the rest of the guys?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that part in. Well, I was living in San Jose, and I was going to San Jose State, and I was playing in a band already with John Hartman, who came out looking for anybody from Moby Grape, and I was hanging around with Skip Spence. So we got together through Skip, and he brought a bass player with him, and we started playing, and we were kind of a power trio. And then that morphed a little bit when Skip would play with us on and off, and called a band of gypsies, and I call it your one. Anyway, it was myself, Skip, Greg Murphy, who was a bass player at the time, and John went and played in a place called The Lamplighter, I think it was called, or The Gaslight, take your choice, one or the other, in Campbell, California. Pat was playing there that night, and we met him, and they were doing a folk blues thing, him and a banjo player. So that kind of fit into the whole Moby Grape scene, and John jumped all over that, anything like that, and we invited Pat over to the house, and he jammed with us, and we liked what we heard, and so we formed what you might call the nucleus of the Doobie Brothers and brought in a different bass player who was Dave Sjogren, because the other guy left, which, it's a rapid fire, but this is how it worked back then. So that became what was the Doobie Brothers.
And were you guys already doing music full-time at this time? You knew you wanted to do this?
That house was doing music full-time. 12th Street was music 24/7. There was always somebody playing in the basement. That's
how you guys broke. I mean, you were touring like crazy up and down the West Coast. Is that correct?
Not really. No. Well, you mean at that period of time?
Well, I mean, eventually. That's how you got the word out about the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah, well, we kind of played. We played in San Jose. We played in Santa Cruz. We played up at the Chateau a lot. We played in San Francisco. We played in Mendocino. Kind of all basically in the Upper Bay Area, around that stuff.
And was your goal to get a record deal? Was that kind of the goal back then?
Not at the outset. The outset was just, we're playing to have fun. We're just playing because we like playing. John is the one that really wanted to make the big time. But we did eventually, through Skip, go up and make a demo at Pacific Studios, which in turn got played for some people in L.A. and Warner's, who in turn liked it so much, they came up and listened to the band and signed us, and so we did end up doing that.
And John, let's talk about you coming in, because at that time, Doobie Brothers already pretty successful, and you were pretty successful. I mean, I've got your credits here. Played on a couple of Van Morrison albums. You played on the Fly Like an Eagle album, Steve Miller, huge record. Mm-hmm. Grateful Dead, Huey Lewis guy. You played in Clover.
That is correct.
You also played on a big record he had called Sports, which
of
course was a little bit later. So you were successful before the Doobies. Doobies, you guys were successful before hooking up with John. So did you guys know each other? Or?
I mostly knew Keith Knudsen, the band's longtime drummer, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. I was living in the same part of the country up in Marin County, and I knew Keith from when he was in a group called Mendelbaum before he joined the Doobies. And when the Doobies were looking for a new guitarist, when Jeff Baxter left the group, it was really through Keith that I ended up kind of getting together and coming down and playing with the guys, sort of auditioning, and they hired me that day.
Do you remember what the audition was like? I mean, it sounds to me like it was, you kind of knew each other and it's kind of hanging out, and you like each other to hang out with each other, plus play music with each other, so you're in.
Well, there was an element of that. The group had a rehearsal house in Montero up in on the coast in California, and I went down with Keith, played for probably a couple hours with the guys, and it just felt really natural. I mean, Clover was another group that was kind of modeled in large measure after Moby Grape, so there was a lot of common influence, I think, in terms of what the vision might be from my past as far as what kind of band I had wanted to be in and what the Doobie Brothers were doing. So it was a pretty natural fit because the band, the Doobies, always incorporated a lot of different musical styles, and so did Clover, and that was just, I don't know, it just felt really like the right thing, I guess, and those guys liked me, so they made a mistake. I mean,
you're still here. So you've been in the band, I guess, over 30 years.
Over 30 years.
Doobie Brothers have been around about 40 years, and over that time, you guys have had a lot of people. So I want to talk to you guys more about the audition process. I mean, you guys are the Doobie Brothers. So is that enough to get people interested in you? And since you can get, like, I guess, really the top shelf musicians, do you have to even try people out? Can you talk more about how you bring in new people? and how you find out about new people.
The only time that I can remember ever auditioning somebody, the way you're talking about auditioning somebody, is when Keith died and we had to get a drummer real fast. And we literally did hold auditions. We were over there rehearsing in Third Encore, and we brought in, God, I don't know, 5 guys. One of them I knew really well. And that's the only time I can remember a real audition. I mean, we've had to replace guys. In the last couple of years, we've had people that have, had health issues and stuff and have had to leave the band, and we had to
kind of dragged a couple of guys in. Our keyboard player, Guy Ellison, I think I'd recommended and brought
but that wasn't an audition. He just
it wasn't an audition. It wasn't a strict audition because we knew that he could. He was
and Mark on sax after
Mark
Dan.
On sax.
So I mean,
Mark Russo.
But those just kind of happen, and that's the way most of the time it has worked with this band. It just kind of happens because somebody knows somebody, and they come in and they work out. Thankfully, they've always worked out. But and even as recently as bringing in John on bass, for instance, that's another.
John
but he's
Cowan,
played with us before, John Cowan from just to help us out because we lost our bass player in last April. So it's just an ongoing process.
John, let me ask you this question. You came in after Jeff Skunk Baxter, which you mentioned. Big shoes to fill. If you don't know who he is, he's one of the founding members of Steely Dan. Of course, did a lot of great work with Doobie Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
What were the first few weeks like? I mean, did you just kind of set back? This is a question for you too, Tom. I mean, when you guys have new guys, you just kind of give them the carte blanche and just tell them to go for it? Or, I mean, how do you guys, bring somebody into the fold? Because I imagine that I would be pretty nervous to say anything at that point. I'd just be happy to be there.
It's like, it's just like, you meet this chick and you go, wow, man, this is really working great. I'm liking this. And, and they're both kind of feeling each other out. I don't mean that in the physical version. I mean, you're kind of just seeing how this is going to work out. And then as the thing gets a little more familiar, you start seeing, whoa, I wasn't ready for that, or, and the band is more or less like that. It's sort of like a chick.
My experience was that the guys were really supportive of me just being myself.
I wasn't referring to John when I was saying that.
No, especially the feeling, no. None of that touchy-feely stuff. The guys were really, really supportive of me being my own player, and I always try to cover parts and be true to the record as much as I can, but at the same time interpret them in my own way. But
this is a great way of saying I'll do what I want if you don't like it. No, just kidding.
No. But
kind of like a woman.
Yeah.
Well, let's kind of hang on that thread a little bit, because I've always thought personally, a band, it really is, it's like being married. Except you've got 5 guys and everybody, or sometimes more in the case of Doobie Brothers.
Kind of like familial,
Yeah, absolutely.
Literally. I mean, it's like a family because you're around the guys in the band as much and sometimes more than you're around your own family. And you get to know everybody's perks.
It's almost like being brothers.
Yeah. I didn't want to say that
brothers.
because of that, yeah. Didn't want to say that. But that's okay.
How do you keep the band moving forward then? How do you keep from getting on each other's nerves? Do you guys have any
separate
tricks?
rooms really helps a lot.
And separate bunks.
And separate bunks, separate buses. Well, not for every guy, but everybody defines their own space in the band, and they use it how they need to use it. And when we're not playing, it's not like everybody, let's go hang out. I mean, it doesn't work that way. I mean, you're around each other all the time anyhow, so everybody goes and does their own thing, and then when it's time to play, we come together and we go play. I'm going to bring this up right now because it doesn't necessarily fit with what you're asking, but it sort of does. Keith always had a saying, and I try to bring this up as often as possible because I really believe this. You get paid for the 22 hours it takes to get to the gig, and then you play for nothing. So that involves your interactions with the guys in the band and everything that's involved. I mean, all that, the travel, the hotel, the bus, if it's a long overnighter, if it's a short overnight. All that stuff falls into line with everybody getting along. Like the more overnighters we do that are really long, the crankier everybody gets. It's just the way it is.
We wouldn't still be around if there wasn't a lot of mutual respect, both musically
Absolutely.
and personally, and we actually like each other.
Yeah.
So that helps.
And we respect each other's musicality, too. That's the other thing I think that's really important.
One of the things that I think is interesting, we can talk about the new record, because you've had some people from the past come and join you on the new record. Michael McDonald for one of them.
Yeah.
And the new record, World Gone Crazy. And it really has, hasn't it? It's pretty. Or maybe it always has.
I mean, that's why I stopped watching the news.
But the music business has gone crazy, and
well, it's part of the world.
Certainly,
that was a short trip, though.
But let's talk about that. I mean, you have like an open door policy. I know people join you on gigs. You guys are constantly touring. The new record has some old friends on it. No hard feelings if somebody wants to leave the band or come back in? You just put the song first, it sounds like.
Well, nobody's asked to leave recently.
Is there something I should know?
No. No. That was not the inference. I just thinking. I haven't had, nobody said that lately.
Actually, the lineup's been pretty darn
pretty
stable
steady for a long
quite
time.
a while now. We get that question a lot as far as like personnel changes, but a lot of those happened a long, long time ago now. You know,
Personnel changes nowadays are usually due to health issues.
Yeah,
Pretty much, period.
that's it. But you know, we still remain friends with the guys that had the
Guys that get
former
sick,
members,
yeah.
like and Michael. We do shows with him in the band occasionally. Have been doing for years, and Pat invited him in to sing on the one song on the new album, and it was a perfect fit. It's, you know, his voice is just right for the part that Pat wanted him to sing. So,
Well, and there's other friends too, like Billy Payne. I always bring his name up a lot, but he's been playing on albums with us since 1972. Yeah, he's Little Feat's keyboard player, but he's always fit in one way or another on a lot of our stuff, and he played on a lot of stuff on this album and really made it super duper.
You guys seem to have a really great camaraderie and community. I guess there's competition, but not really. I mean, you all want to help each other out. You play on each other's records and let people come in and come back as they please. Can you talk more about that? I think there's such a competitive state in the music industry of like guys, let's say on the local scene. Let's take the Nashville scene, for example. People get jealous, and you guys don't seem to have that. You let people, go wherever they need to.
I think we've been doing this long enough that you understand that stuff just doesn't matter. I mean, what really matters is the music. What really matters is how well you're playing the music, and we're all about playing live. I think it's always been the most important focal point for this band is to get up in front of a crowd and put on a really good show, and a respectable show. I mean, these guys can really play. They don't need, they play their instruments. They know how to sing. And that's always been the case since 1970, so I don't think that's ever changed. As far as all that other stuff, there's not a lot of drama going on in this band that way.
we used to read. I remember reading articles about the inner strife of the Doobie Brothers and stuff like that, and we would just laugh about them. It was like, what? Where do these people get this?
Well, they got something to write about. I understand that. That's cool.
Yeah. Talk about the day in the life of you guys. I know
it's a great song. Oh.
But you're promoting the new record. You come in here, you do a quick thing, then you're off to do something else. Can you just talk about the day in the life? And you might want to even talk about like what today is so people can get an idea of the pace that you guys are going at.
Well, this is because of the album. We wouldn't normally be doing this. We've been doing a lot of this lately.
Lobby call was 7:10 a.m.
Right.
And
then you
last
just
night
hit
we
one
got in
after
at
another.
what time? Like
we
around
flew in from the West Coast.
10:30 at night.
Got here
We got to the
10:30,
hotel.
11. But it's just constant doing what we're doing here, or if we're not doing it at a radio station, then we're doing it for a magazine guy, or we're doing it, well, I guess it was a radio station this morning, too, and we did 2 separate ones there. Getting out and doing the press thing and making people aware, hopefully, that this is going on. We're really happy with this album. We want people to hear it. I mean, we spent a lot of time making it. We'd like somebody to hear it, and we're all proud of it. So it's basically what it's all about.
Well, it sounds fantastic. Do you guys have a story from recording the album, like getting back in the studio? First record in 10 years. Why did it take so long to get back in?
It didn't have to take that long. I think it was just that's when we got around to doing it. We started fooling around in 2005 up at John's house in his studio with Teddy, the feeling out process, if you will, of working with Ted again, because we hadn't worked with him in a long time.
Yeah, we've been in talks with Ted for a while, over a couple of years even before that, about maybe doing it. But it just took a while to really get serious about it and get going. But
Yep. And then we picked the tunes. And then by 2007, we were really engaged in doing this album.
Do you have any stories from the studio?
Well, I would say that, doing the basics, we started off, I think, with 10 basics. We ended up with 13 songs, but the first 10 basics was sort of like a trip in the past because Ted was in the booth and we're out there in the studio and there's like drums, bass, and guitar and doing it just like the old days.
Yeah.
at Sunset Sound,
At
too,
Sunset
which
Sound,
cut a lot of the
A lot of stuff
stuff
done
in the
there.
past.
And then after that, it kind of spread out a little bit. Work was done in Hawaii. Work was done in Sausalito. There was I think 4 or 5 studios in L.A. that got worked in. Not every guy was there for every one of those sessions. A lot of work got done at John's house in his studio. So, I mean, it was different in that aspect.
How was it let's say back in the 70s, did you guys go in for like an extended block of time and just
We don't remember.
That's not necessarily inaccurate.
I mean, was there a lot of pressure to follow up on the last hit? I mean, can you talk about the differences now compared to then?
We would be on the road all the time in the 70s, and then when we get off the road, you say, okay, well, next album, bang, let's do it. And so somewhere in there you had to write the songs. I never could write on the road. I always had to write at home. So the writing had to happen. A lot of the songs could have come from 2 years prior, and then they'd get recorded when they get recorded, like Long Train Running we were playing in 1970, but it had different words every night, and I'd made them up on the spot. And then it finally ended up being a song in 1973, and Teddy said, write some words. So I went in the bathroom in Amigo Studios and wrote the words. I said, okay, here, some words. I got your words. You want words? Here. It was pretty much constant all the time. You know, we were on the road, we're in the studio, and you get a little time off at home, but we were working a lot. And now we're on the road about 90 to 100 shows a year, which seems to vary with the story and every time we tell this. And then the rest of the time, you know, we're doing whatever we like to do. John does a lot of studio work. I write a lot in my studio at home. And then we all have families, and, you know, that takes up a lot of time.
Is it still as exciting to you guys as it was back then? I mean, when you come together with like a great song or get a good recording?
I think it is. I don't think it's exciting in the same way. I think because we've all matured, and I think we've all got a little clearer perspective on what's going on around us. And I think the writing process has changed. I know it has.
Can you talk more about your writing process? You mentioned not writing on the road.
Yeah, I've never been able to write on the road. I don't know why that is. It just never happens. The writing process has changed for me. I'm just talking about for me. Me and a guitar. And here's how the chord structure goes, and I got an idea, maybe some words, maybe not. And then we'd go in, tiring it at a bass part, Pat would come up with a guitar part, drums would be done usually with Ted and Mike, or John, but most of the time Mike, and the song would take on its form and would be finished. Now, with the advent of software that allows you to do this, you can go into your studio at home, you can play bass, you can play drums, you can play guitar into the computer, you can play multiple guitars in the computer, you can do the background vocals, you can do the lead vocals, you can stack the background vocals, you can have strings, you can have horns, you can do whatever you want. So when you come in, here's the song, when I say here's the song, it's fleshed out. Mm-hmm. And, you know, everybody will still want to put parts in. I'll give you an example, Young Man's Game. I came in with a song, and it hasn't changed the chord structure as far as, you know, what chords follow what. But John came up with a guitar part because Ted says, you know what, that guitar part is just a little too, I don't know, simple or trite or whatever. So John came up with this guitar part that really kind of defined the song. It's got this Stonesy feel now to it, which really took it to a totally different place. So there's an example of you brought in the song fleshed out, but somebody else added this new part, and it takes it to another place.
Hi, this is Buzz Cason, and you're listening to Music Business Radio. And I'm the guy who co-wrote the song that got played 6 million times on radio. And in the true hillbilly fashion, I spent it all.
Hey, Lightning 100 listeners. Have you taken the Team Green Adventures survey?
Excuse me, Keeley. I'm supposed to be in here talking about the Lighting 100 year-end survey.
But this is important. Responses from this year's Team Green Adventure survey will help shape the type of events and adventures that we offer in 2011.
Boring. The Lightning 100 survey is all about the music you hear on Lightning 100, our specialty shows, the new amazing website, plus the survey winners could win an autographed guitar by the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah? Well, Team Green Adventure survey takers could win a hot air balloon ride, courtesy of Nashville Balloon Rides, or a one-year Team Green Adventures membership package, or...
Hey, guys, what's going on in here? You know our listeners can take both surveys, right? Visit TeamGreenAdventures.com or Lightning100.com to take both surveys through December 30th.
Now back to a special edition of Music Business Radio. Today's guests include the Doobie Brothers and Sara Bareilles. Now here's David Hooper.
We deal with a lot of songwriters, a lot of guys sending demos, and something I've noticed is a lot of people treat their songs like babies. They don't want anything changed on that. What you're saying is, it sounds like you're really open to that, just to make the best song possible.
I am, as long as I respect the change. And I want to get too defined on this.
He's very open unless he's closed.
Well, there's one song in particular that became a real sore spot for me, and without belaboring this, I was ready to toss it. I said, this is not going where it needs to go at all. I said, it's losing its feeling. It's just kind of laying there. I said, it's not at all, the words. We had the words by then. I said, no, this ain't getting it. So thank God we were able to do, because we took this much time to do a record. We stepped away from everything, and then I was able, with the help of Billy Payne in Sausalito and a couple other guys, to go in 3 days and completely redo and rebuild that song, in a sense, because all I kept was the bass, the drums, John's guitar part, and that was it. And then Billy came in and redid the keyboards on it, and bang, it was like, wow, this whole thing is like back where it should be. So now it's back on track, and it became like a really cool song.
How do you guys know when your songs are done?
Because we quit playing.
It's just a feeling, I think.
I think so.
You have to follow your instincts, and I think in our case, it's generally we end up agreeing on that. At this point, it feels right all of a sudden to all of us. It's interesting.
But are there ever some old songs that you think, man, I wish I could go back and change this? I mean, something you would do now that maybe you didn't think of?
I hear that now and again.
We kind of did that with Nobody, I guess you could say.
Well, yeah, they really did that with Nobody.
Yeah, can you talk about Nobody? Because that's the first single off the new record.
Right.
Was there a specific reason that you picked that? Because it was also the first song off the first record.
First off, you noticed that, yeah. Well, we didn't. That was Ted's idea. And when we first announced it, everybody said, it was released twice. It didn't do anything. Why do you want to do this? But, he was insistent upon it, and I saw his perspective. We all did after a while, because it wasn't really recorded very well. In fact, that whole first album wasn't recorded very well, if you'll know the truth. And that's probably why it went Teflon, among other things. But that song had potential, and so we just took it apart. New bass part, new drum part. John came up with a really cool picking part over the chunk of stuff that was always there. The front end, Pat came up with a really cool entrance to it that's kind of a Western movie feel to it. How's that? Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. And John came up with a cool dobro slide part over the top of that. So the song took on this whole different feel. So we felt good about it, and we delivered for Ted, and we also made the song much better.
And the fidelity of the recording itself, too, is just quite superior to the
Hi-fi
original.
now instead of lo-fi.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a lot more, just better
Sibilance.
recording. Yeah, better recording job.
Well, you can check it out. The new album is World Gone Crazy. I got my copy on iTunes. It's available everywhere. Amazon has it. Any tips for long-lasting songs? I think I hear you guys as much on the radio now as I did 10 years ago, as I did 20 years ago. So, I mean, every artist, every songwriter dreams of having songs like that. Do you have any tips for people who want to get like a long-lasting song?
Called payola. No, just kidding. I'm really just kidding.
What word is that? I don't know what that means. No, I would say it's got to have a hook. I mean, that's an old industry term, but it's still true. You need a hook. And you need something, this is my perspective on it as a writer, simple is good. In other words, people can grasp it if there's not a lot going on. It's not like some symphonic masterpiece, but it's somewhat simple but catchy. And if there's a lyric that's repeated that they can get used to singing, then that really helps. And if it's a good song, in other words, the chord structure is good, and it's not like, I'm not going to use anybody as an example, but if it's not a dumb song, okay? It's talking about something, it has a message to it, but it's not message that weighs you down. It's a light message. I think people will like it. And I can also say that we've been very fortunate, and I never know when that song is going to be written. It happens. It's the best songs write themselves.
All right, one more question for you guys, because we're running out of time here. I'm going to ask each of you this. Advice for up-and-coming musicians.
Think twice. No.
Practice.
Practice and meet somebody that's in the business, that's in the business end of the business. You've got to know somebody in the business. It's more important now than it ever was. In the old days, it was important then, but now the competition has gotten so insane for kids coming up, because I've got a daughter as a singer, and I'm getting to see this firsthand. And it's like there's so many people trying to get in that same door that we got in a long time ago. The door was bigger then. That door is like a postage stamp now.
Why do you think that is?
Programs like American Idol, which have convinced a lot of people that they can do this, and a lot of those people can't, and they shouldn't be even trying, but they're trying. Parents who jumped on that same train and said, God, my kid could make some money. Get the kid through that door. And just, people in general have decided that, showbiz is much more accessible to them than it ever was. And in a sense it is, but that doesn't mean they'll make it. The world has changed. Music keeps changing. What's popular has changed a lot. But the thing that stands the test of time is the thing you asked about, a song that can get played on the radio over and over. If it ends up being on classic rock, then it's still getting played, but it's still a good song. It's a viable song.
And John, you said practice.
Yes. When you asked the question, it was, what would your advice be to young musicians, or, if you want to be a musician as opposed to wanting to be a star,
amen.
Forget about the business side of it. Focus on the music, and that means practice, and that means doing it because you love it and following your instincts.
And I listed some of the guys that you had played with earlier recordings are Rick James, Janis Ian, Beach Boys, Elvis Costello, the lead on Allison. Everybody knows that riff. I mean, so you're versatile as well.
I'd like to think so. I don't know too many people that played on a Boz Scaggs album and a Ricky Skaggs album, so, that'd be one example.
Skaggs family is very, very prolific.
Yeah, and the Rick James, and from Rick James to Emmylou Harris or whatever. I mean, it's.
So
I've been really lucky. I've worked with some great people, and it started young for me. I got hired because Michael Bloomfield heard me play and hired me to play on a record. Then Van Morrison, and then one thing led to another, and I've just been real lucky with that.
What he's not telling you, though, is he's really a damn good guitar player and can play fiddle or violin, whichever you choose. Banjo,
what about
mandolin,
the Hawaiian
slide, pedal steel.
See, well, I know about the Hawaii sugar commercial as well.
That's right, C&H sugar commercial. That's one of my favorite credits, actually. I got to play Hawaiian steel guitar on one of the most played Hawaiian steel guitar recordings ever. Just simply by virtue of the fact that it was a long-running TV commercial.
Well, something that it sounds like is you guys you're saying yes to opportunity, you're showing up, and you're still showing up. I mean, 40 years to be, waking up at 7, and here we are right now, in the afternoon, and you're not even done yet.
That's true.
Showing up. Anything I asked you, just final words that you want to get in that I didn't ask but I should have?
There is. I don't remember what it was.
What's the capital of Vermont? I mean, that's one of my favorite questions.
Well, I highly recommend the new album is World Gone Crazy. You've got
Montpelier, by the way.
DVD retrospective on there that talks about the 40-year history of the band. So anybody who wants to know really how bands are built, this thing is fantastic. And the album is not bad either. So
Thank you.
so
We sure
much.
hope somebody likes that.
No,
That
the
would be very helpful.
the album is awesome. I was listening to all sorts of stuff as I was prepping for this interview. I thank you guys for your time. And where
for
can people
having
find
us.
out more information about you guys?
Oh, you can go to a lot of places now due to networking and all that. You can go to our website, of course, and you can go to Facebook, you can go to MySpace,
DoobieBrothers.net or DoobieBros.com.
Right.
That's our website.
Or come into a venue near you.
Exactly.
100 dates a year.
But thank you for your excellent questions.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. It's Tom Johnston and John McFee from the Doobie Brothers, and we'll see you guys on the road.
You got it.
All right, thanks.
You're listening to a special edition of Music Business Radio. Up next, Sara Bareilles.
This is Keith Moore from IndieHeaven.com. I work with thousands of Christian independent artists, and when I want to learn something new, I listen to Music Business Radio.
You're listening to Music Business Radio on the web at musicbusinessradio.com.
Hey, Jim, why are you wearing your Hawaiian shirt today?
I saved the company so much money in our shredding service this year, the boss is sending me and the wife to Hawaii.
I didn't even get my Christmas turkey this year.
Might be your shredding service. We use Shred on the Run. They save us nearly 20%.
Man, you know our documents are really sensitive. I can't take any chances.
Well, we're not taking any chances either. Shred on the Run is bonded and insured.
Hi, I'm Shane Markwart, owner-operator of Shred on the Run. If you need regular service or simply a one-time purge, Shred on the Run is there when you need us. We'll come to your business or residence and shred on-site and in-site so you can be sure your sensitive documents are properly destroyed. We want to be your shredding company. I urge you to compare our prices with our competitors. You'll be glad you did. Call Shred on the Run at 290-3031. That's 290-3031. Or visit shredontherun.com. And for our loyal Lightning 100 listeners, bring your documents by our office and we'll shred it for free. 10-box limit. Just mention Lightning 100.
Hey, Jim, thanks for the tip. See you on the beach. Aloha.
But it's you I fell into.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters. You're listening to Music Business Radio.
It's Lightning 100's Lieutenant Dan doing a special edition of Music Business Radio with Sara Bareilles. How you doing, Sara?
I'm doing well.
It's great to have you here in Nashville, and I want to hear your story, but I thought we'd start off, since this is a show about the music business, but you're in town on a promo tour, right?
Right, correct.
So can you tell people, what that is?
Yeah, I mean, radio, as you know, is still a very important part of the equation for artists and for getting new music out there. And it's definitely changed the trajectory of my career in the past. You know, I was very fortunate to have a lot of really wonderful radio support the last time around. So basically, we just hit the road and we go and we visit a bunch of lovely stations like yourselves, and we sing some new music and do interviews and cut what are liners for the station, where I say, "Hey, this is Sara Bareilles, and you're listening to." Add your station here, and but it's great. It's a great way to meet the the faces behind the voices that everyone is so familiar with, and it's just a really nice way to kind of give back, I think.
Is it pretty whirlwind? Do you have to buzz in and out of town? Do you get to actually say, "Okay, I want an hour to go to the thrift store, guys"?
Well, I would probably pick that for a different type of tour. These tours they tend to be really rigorous and just a lot at once. So, we wake up and we're like, what city are we in? We have no idea. I mean, we're taking multiple plane flights a day or coming in and out of 3 to 4 cities a day. So it's in and out. But, when we come back on our headlining tour, we do like to explore the cities we get to, come through.
What do you like to do in your downtime? I see you have a nice cup of coffee here. So
this is one of my favorite things to do is, of course, it has to do with food. It's finding great food in the city. What is the restaurant to check out? And I love coffee shops. I am such a coffee junkie. And so, yeah, I usually try to find people's favorite little hangs.
I'm thinking that the video for your new song, King of Anything, are you in a coffee shop for a minute in there?
Yeah, we are. We're at a coffee shop in Vancouver.
Did you just show up and be like, hey, guess what? We're shooting a video.
We're shooting a video
Can
here.
we get a free cup of coffee?
We did no, I think we had to pay for it, actually.
No way.
I think we did.
I saw the video, and I'd love for you to kind of like walk us through like what goes into that, because I'm guessing it's a pretty big production.
It definitely is a big production, and it's different every time. And I'm sure the one constant in this industry is that it's different for everybody. Like there is no like one way to do any of this, and that's been kind of a real big lesson for me to learn to think outside the box a little bit. So King of Anything, the video, is the first time that I ever attempted writing a video treatment. That was a new step for me, and what ended up happening was I wrote the treatment, and we sent it out to the director, Sara Bareilles, and he wrote back and kind of gave me his take on... he had written a treatment prior to reading mine, so basically what we did was like marry the two, and it ended up being this really cool kind of amalgamation of both of our ideas. But what I took away from that was just, I think as an artist, the more you put your stamp on things, the more you really give an authentic version of what your artistic vision is. I think the more people connect with it. I think it's a really... it can be a scary thing to do because you feel like you're so exposed, but at the same time, I think that's really the way the fan and the listener is going to get the best sides of you, is if you're willing to kind of put it all out there.
When you say a video treatment, can you like, just for people who don't know what that is, like what?
So it's basically just like an outline. It's an outline of the story of what you see on the screen. So for example, I would say, the scene opens in a coffee shop and Sara is sitting opposite, the king character, and he looks like, a scraggly guy, and he's yammering on and telling her what to do. And you basically go into as much detail as you can to give the people on the production side of things. So that's the camera crew, the people that are dealing with the cinematography or, director of photography, so they can have as much information as possible. And the technical side of things, I don't know anything about, so I'm not going to be any help.
That's what Epic is for.
Yeah, there you go.
You need a team.
Yeah, exactly.
So you said this is the first time you've done that.
Right.
Since then, have you been like writing a song or listening to a song and starting to like think in those terms?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That really has changed my approach, because I think in the past, not that I haven't enjoyed the process of making the videos, but I think I felt more removed from it than I needed to. I felt like creatively I was handing over the reins to someone else, when really I think the best product will come out of feeling that it's more of a collaboration than just kind of a, giving someone all the power. So...
Do you look at other people's videos now or listen to other people's songs and go, I would have done it this way?
No, I'm trying not to be too critical, but I get inspired by all sorts of things. So I'll listening to other people's music or seeing other videos. I mean, videos that are nothing like something I would do. A video from Lady Gaga, for example, like you can garner inspiration from that, even though you know that stylistically it's maybe not a direction I would go in. I think people would laugh at me, but she does it really well.
We're talking to Sara Bareilles, and she's going to be at Ryman Auditorium Friday, October 8th with Greg Laswell. And the connection to Greg Laswell is Ingrid Michaelson sings on the new Greg Laswell record. And did you co-write a song with Ingrid?
I did, yeah. And actually, I know Greg from the Hotel Cafe scene in Los Angeles. So we met years and years ago, and we've always kind of run in the same circles. But then, yes, Ingrid became a friend of mine, and we co-wrote a song together called Winter Song for a benefit CD that was put out by the Hotel Cafe. And she sang on that record with Greg, and the rest is history, you guys.
Well, let's take it back a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about your story. Okay. You grew up with really tall trees around you.
I did,
in the redwood forest, which I personally, I was born in San Mateo County, and my parents got married in the redwood forest.
Awesome.
So very familiar with that. And you went from there to L.A., and that must have been a shock. Pretty big difference for you.
Huge culture shock for me. I mean, growing up in Eureka was really magical in the sense that I think I was really, really sheltered from most everything. And it was a weakness and a strength that I was really naive to almost everything. I mean, from sex and drugs to just just what it feels like to be in a big city, to the entertainment industry. Like, I did not really have access to any of that. So I was a kid for a really long time, and then I went to school, and I remember I went to university at UCLA in Los Angeles, and I was bowled over by everything. I mean, not only from like fashion and sort of what people had as priorities, you know, Gucci bags and Prada, and I was like, you cannot purchase a Gucci bag in Eureka, California if you tried. They do not exist. They do have the internet, and we have the wheel. We got both of those things. But no, it was such a different upbringing, and it was really magical in that way. But yeah, LA was a culture shock, to say the least.
I imagine it affected your writing. If you were writing, were you writing much before the move?
That was actually that was a big thing that started it for me, and I think part of what the college experience is very sort of self-exploratory, and I got very introspective and started to really feel isolated in a way. I didn't really know where I belonged. I didn't really, I had some really sweet friends, but they were all in a sorority, and I didn't feel like that was really my scene. And so I think I turned to music. That became kind of how I discovered who I was, and it remains to this day sort of my most precious relationship. It's a very special thing for me.
Can you tell us about like one of your first times performing in front of a crowd down there?
The very first time I did anything, it was one of my goals was to play a show, because I was going to spend my junior year abroad in Italy. I was studying Italian, so I wanted to do a year abroad. But it was one of my goals that before I left LA, I was going to do a show. And so I went to an open mic, and I wrapped my keyboard in my bedspread, and I didn't tell a soul. I went there, and I played a song, an old song of mine called Everyday Stranger. And the booker was there, actually. And so he asked me to come back and play a show. And so I got to get a couple of shows under my belt before I left for my year in Italy.
Was that nice?
The year in Italy?
Yeah,
it was amazing. It was actually really traumatic as well. The sense of, I think it's a really important experience for everyone to go somewhere where they feel foreign. And it really changed my perspective on everything. I took away so much from that year. And I really realized how small my world had been, how I'd been living in such a bubble. And it really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I gained like 25 pounds. It was awesome. I ate a lot of pasta and pizza.
They kind of have the best food in the whole world.
And pizza's like, the boys in the band call me Pizzasaurus Rex because I cannot not eat pizza. It is by far my weakness.
He's the king of pizza.
Yeah, right.
You're listening to a special edition of Music Business Radio. Up next, we'll continue our conversation with Sara Bareilles.
You're listening to Music Business Radio on the web at musicbusinessradio.com.
Hey, Lightning 100 listeners, have you taken the Team Green Adventures survey?
Excuse me, Keely. I'm supposed to be in here talking about the Lighting 100 year-end survey.
But this is important. Responses from this year's Team Green Adventure survey will help shape the type of events and adventures that we offer in 2011.
Boring. The Lightning 100 survey is all about the music you hear on Lightning 100, our specialty shows, the new amazing website, plus the survey winners could win an autographed guitar by the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah? Well, Team Green Adventure survey takers could win a hot air balloon ride, courtesy of Nashville Balloon Rides, or a one-year Team Green Adventures membership package, or...
Hey, guys, what's going on in here? You know our listeners can take both surveys, right? Visit teamgreenadventures.com or lightning100.com to take both surveys through December 30th.
Said I think I'll go to Boston.
Hey, this is Chris from Augustana, music business graduate. You're listening to Music Business Radio.
You're listening to a special edition of Music Business Radio. Now we continue with our intimate conversation with Sara Bareilles.
I somehow discovered you one morning before I came to work. I don't come to work that early, but I was watching VH1 a couple years ago, and you were, I think, one to watch or something.
Okay.
It was for the first for Love Song. And so I got your CD. I thought, I got to find it. And I was listening to it, and there was a song that struck me, and I'm sure a lot of people have talked about this song to you, Gravity.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a song that you personally went through, or was that one of those songs that you call on your craft?
No, that was a very, very personal experience with that, and that was really my first experience with heartbreak, and it was, you know, at the time it felt like the world was ending, you know, and I just was never going to be the same. And at this point, I look back. I mean, I was 18 when I wrote that song, and I look back and I was like, wow, I was really melodramatic, but. You know, I think that's it is one of those songs that I see and hear from listeners as being a really important song to them. So, yeah, it was tough. I got my heart stomped on and handed to me a couple of times.
That happened at 18? And when did you write the song? Or were you writing that
I wrote the song, I was probably maybe 19 or 20.
Mm-hmm.
It was my high school boyfriend, and I went away to school. And every time I came home, I just fell back into these same horrible patterns of just like I couldn't think about anything else but him. And so I think I wrote it probably when I was 19, home for that first summer from college.
Wow.
So.
Does he know it was written about him?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm like terrible. I am such an open book. I tell everybody everything. Yeah. He's like, I think I told him it was about him, and he's like, thank you. Like, I don't know what to do with that.
Well, it's really a great song, and I think one of the things that's interesting about the song, the reason I asked how old you were when you wrote it, and I think just sitting here talking with you, I can feel it. It's so insightful. 19 years old, I mean, I was writing, or what was I doing at 19? I was like, I wasn't doing that, and I wasn't thinking about that. Even if I was in a relationship where I was brokenhearted, it certainly wasn't writing a song. It was something else. You know?
Yeah, I got you.
So that's pretty amazing. I mean, how long did it take you to write that song? Was it a...
I want to say, I mean, it's a little foggy for me now because it's been, you know, handful. It's been like 4 years, so I'm just kidding. No, but I think it was something that I came back to a couple of times. I mean, I've had a handful of songs that sort of just pour out and are finished in one session, but that one I think I came back to a couple of different times. But it was, I mean, I think I've always been someone who's very comfortable and in touch with my emotional side. I mean, that's not hard for me to access. I cry about everything. I'm so like, you know, it's a phrase in my family that listen to my words, not to my tears. Like we cry about everything. And so, you know, it's been a really nice thing for me to access as a writer though, because I think it's easy for me to share that stuff.
One of the reasons I wanted to ask that question was just your writing process, and that one song in particular was on the forefront of my brain. So
Thank
I just
you.
thought,
well, I'm glad you liked it.
I want you to tell us about seeking out and getting your record deal. You co-produced your own demo.
Yeah.
And then you had to shop it around.
Yeah. Although I will say I learned the hard way early on. I made a promise to myself that I was going to stop sending my record out because I was only getting bad feedback. And I had done that original demo that's called Careful Confessions. We had done that, and then I was sending it out to people, you know, and it's like in LA, it's like everybody knows somebody who's in the industry somewhere. So it's like getting, you know, mailing it out to people, and really either if you heard back at all, it was always negative. And I got told I'm not a good writer, I'm not a good singer, I'm only a good singer, I'm, you know, it ran the gamut, and I never felt good about it. So I made the decision to stop soliciting people's opinions and input. And I just really focused on my performance and building a live experience for the fan. And that is always my advice to young songwriters is don't worry so much about getting the ear of somebody who's a high up mucky muck or whatever. Because really what people want to capitalize on and market is something that's already working. So if they see you have a great rapport with an audience or build a fan base that comes from an authentic place, the work is done. And that's really what you want to feel confident in the first place is that the show is there or the songs are there. Concentrate on the craft because the business is changing so much and it's impossible to chase it. It's going to keep morphing into something else that you have no idea how it works.
How did you keep the energy after having such negative response?
Well, I had really wonderful support in LA. I mean, I attribute a lot of it to my time at UCLA. I mean, the student body was really, really supportive. And I mean, little by little, I would just play shows and I learned oh, I can't book that many shows in 1 month because then nobody comes to them. I've done the shows in front of 7 people and my aunt, it's like I did all of the things, and I learned by doing what works and what doesn't. People ask about sort of the big break, and that would have been meeting my manager, and that came from doing a tour with my buddies that are now Maroon 5. At the time they were Car as Flowers, but I got a chance to play with them and tour with them, and that's kind of how I met my manager. But it all came from this very, organic place, which I think is the only way it would have worked for me.
Can you tell us about the difference between the experience of recording your demo and the experience of going into a real studio, which I assume...
Oh, it was terrifying.
Yeah?
It was terrifying. Making my first record was such a tumultuous process for me, and it was just, I think, when I think back now, I realize I blamed everybody else, but it was so much just my experience. I was so scared of everything and scared of losing grip on who I really was, or getting pushed in a direction I didn't want to go, or, playing with musicians that aren't my band members, everything, ran the gamut of being scared. And so I can't say that I really, really enjoyed that first process because it was just terrifying. And the demo was it was easy because it was just me and my friend Gabe who co-produced it with me. So we didn't have to answer to anybody or ask anybody's opinion, or it was just all about like, well, do you like this? Great, I like it too. Let's record the next track. It was easy.
So your new record was fun then?
The new record was really fun, and I think so many things are different at this point. I was lucky enough to have success with the first record, so the label sort of gave us free rein for the most part. I had a great collaborator in my producer, Neil Avron, and we had a great chemistry and sort of synergy in terms of our vision. And I am just a more confident person at this point. I'm just not afraid to say when I don't like something, and I'm not afraid to speak up and take charge. And I sound like I've got it all figured out. I still struggle with that stuff sometimes, but, in general,
because you have a kaleidoscope heart.
Yeah, I'm fragmented.
There's a lot of different colors.
Yeah, exactly. But I am a much more confident person than I was.
Do you ever in the studio say, gosh, guys, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why, having a great sense of trust with whoever you're collaborating with is just paramount, because you have to be able to trust somebody else's opinion. There were times where I would look at Neil and be like, I got nothing. Whatever you want to do is what we're going to do, because I have no idea what I think. He's like, okay, great.
Now, did you go in with a lot of songs, or how many songs did you go into the studio with?
We went in with 18. Wow. 18 songs. And one of them ended up two of them ended up kind of not ever getting finished, because one of them I'm sort of trying to figure out if I like the structure of the song, so we kind of just put that down. And the other one, I think production-wise, we went in a direction that didn't end up feeling authentic to the song. So we'll probably readdress that at some point. But luckily, this is the first time I've ever had more than enough material. That was a foreign process for me as well, because the first time it was like, God, I just want to get to 10 songs.
I can't imagine what that pressure's like, especially with the clock ticking.
Yeah, it's not fun. But, it's not life or death. That's the thing that I've been really lucky to have good friends remind me of, good friends who are also musicians and have experienced the same kind of roller coaster ride, is like, if the songs aren't there, then you've already answered your own question. Like, you can't polish a turd. It's not going to be good. You can sing it well and you can produce it to sound pretty, but if the song isn't good, it's not a good song. So, ask for more time. So, yeah, that's what I did.
That's awesome. I appreciate you talking to us, Sara.
It's my pleasure. Getting down to the nitty gritty. I like this.
Yeah, no, it's good. And, you really gave people a lot of advice, and it's hard. And there's, especially in Nashville, Tennessee, there's so many people who want to do it. And like you said, you send out your record and you get no feedback or negative feedback. So.
What's awesome, though, about Nashville is that there's so many songwriters here. That's such a special group of people. And whereas in LA, and I love LA, don't get me wrong, but it's more about, there's a lot of people that want to be famous in LA. And here it's about the craft and it's about the music, and that's something that I really appreciate getting a chance to tap into a little bit here. It feels great.
Have you been writing with people here?
No, I haven't, but I'm actually a terrible co-writer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm terrible at it. It's something I really am hoping to get better at.
Terrible why?
I just get all heady. It feels like the only either I'm afraid of hurting somebody's feelings, so I won't say what I really think, or I feel pressure to come up with something quick, and I don't feel like I have enough time to figure out if I actually really like the idea or not. It's not something I'm good at yet.
On the new record, Kaleidoscope Heart, are those all songs you wrote?
Mm-hmm.
No co-writes?
There's one co-write with a friend of mine who helped me kind of finish the bridge on a song. I couldn't figure out the bridge, and he helped me with that. And then everything else I wrote myself. But there was an exclusive track on the pre-order that I co-wrote with the band, which was cool because I've been playing with these boys for a long time.
And I want you to tell us about your band, because the guy that was just playing drums said he lives here in East Nashville.
He does. He lives in East Nashville. His name's Josh Day. Who I have with me here today is Josh Day and Javier Dunn, and they've been playing with me since the very, very beginning. So we're going on 7 years together.
Longer than many marriages.
Yeah, I know. We're about due for a fight, I guess, or something. Yeah, they're great. And then my band members that aren't with me today are Dan Ryan and Phil Cronengold. So I have a good posse of boys. It's important to have good people around you.
You've been listening to a special edition of Music Business Radio with our guests today, the Doobie Brothers and Sara Bareilles. For a free podcast of this episode, go to musicbusinessradio.com.
Thanks for listening to Music Business Radio, a production of Tuned In Broadcasting Incorporated, Nashville, Tennessee. Recorded in the WRLT Lightning 100 studios. Music Business Radio is produced by Gary Crane, David Hooper, and Dan Buckley. Hosted by David Hooper. Engineered by Dan Buckley. Demo Derby coordination by Gary Crane and Jesse Smith. Special technical assistance by Tom Hansen. With Pro Tools post-production by Justin Hamill and Dan Buckley. And Lester fixed the script. Over and over and over. For information on syndication, guest booking, Demo Derby music, or downloading previous episodes, visit musicbusinessradio.com.
Music Business Radio.